All right. My name is Cam F. Awesome. I have been your MC all day. You might recognize me from standing on some chairs at about 9 o'clock this morning, yelling at strangers, and then introducing people throughout the day. And now I'm going to be leading off this panel of the plant-based Brothaz to my right. All right, so from left on, let's give him a round of applause. So,
Let me interrupt you real quick. You got to say it right. It's plant-powered.
Oh, Plant Power Brothers. Oh, my bad. Well, maybe you guys should put it on a shirt or something.
Well, it is.
Plant Power Brothers. That one's on me. All right, so starting from the left, let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Kat. I'm actually a personal trainer, radio host in the Bay Area at 89.3 KPFB. I'm out here educating our community on the benefits of being plant-based and maintaining muscle in the body.
Awesome.
How's it going? My name is Coach G. I am the owner and founder of Plant-Based Fitness over in Oakland, California. So I have my own actual facility where I help transform people and transform lives. I also, been plant-based for about 10 years, so I consider myself a veteran at this point in time. And basically what I do is I just help people come up with fixes and hacks and different ways to get where they want to be by changing their mindset.
All right. Yep.
Hello, my name is Monk.
Not a man of many words.
More.
I'm
no.
Monk. Mic drop.
Right. I am a meditation instructor, believe it or not, personal trainer. And I've been vegan, plant-based for about 4 years. And I went vegetarian first 6 years ago. And I help people to find their potential and to find their power, and not just in fitness and nutrition, but in life.
Actually, no, not yet. Tell me the most important thing about you.
Oh, that little one?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if anybody was out here earlier to watch Lil Monquita do her thing. Was there anybody in the building? Can you hear me now? So, Lil Monquita, was anybody in here? Okay.
All right, come up and show the people who you are.
Come up for a second. This little one, do a little trick real quick. Go on, do a split, do something. There you go.
Give her a round of applause. All right. Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, thank you. All right, so you've been plant-based for how long?
So I've been plant-based now for 2.5 years.
What, was it an overnight transition, or what got you interested in finding out more about it?
Yeah, no, actually I didn't know what plant-based or vegan was coming from the community I lived in. Like when I tell my story, I might have heard the word once in my life. I was 10 years old, we were picking up a family friend and we were at somebody's house. You know, I grew up eating the standard Western diet. You know, in my community you're eating, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, bacon, sausage, grits, something like that for breakfast, right? So we're over at these people's houses, and they're like, would you like breakfast? Would you like to have breakfast with us? And I'm like, sure, yeah, I'm hungry, I want breakfast. And they served me some oatmeal and some fruit. I'm like, oatmeal and fruit? No, that's not breakfast. I need my fried eggs, I need some sausage, the whole nine. And the lady politely said, she was like, no, we don't serve that here. And I was like, I looked at my dad like, they don't, what are they talking about? And she was like, we're vegan. And I'm 10 years old, right? Never heard this word ever in my life, vegan. Vegan? What the heck is a vegan? So we get in the car. My dad, in the midst of that, looked at me, gave me that stern fatherly look. It was like, just eat what they gave you, right? So I'm sitting there eating my oatmeal and my fruit. And I was like, Dad, we get in the car. I'm like, Dad, what's a vegan? He was like, that's just something they do. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, like, I guess, whatever that means. So, like I said, growing up, I heard the word vegetarian, but I never really heard the word vegan. So I never, had an idea of what a vegan was. 20 years go by, I get back into personal training and everything. Still not familiar with what a vegan is, but one day I'm at the barbershop with my sons. They're getting a haircut. One of the barbers know I'm a trainer in the community, and they were like, hey, I just went, vegan a couple months ago. What recommendations do you have? I was like, vegan. Oh, there goes that word again. What does it mean? I was like, tell you the truth, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. But let me get some information, let me do some research, and I'll get back to you, right? And he gives me some side talk like, oh man, I thought you were a trainer, you're supposed to know all that kind of stuff. I was like, no, don't worry, I'll do some research, I'll get back to you, right? So I started doing my research. I'm like, man, more people probably start asking me this question, how do you train as a vegan? And start doing my research, and I don't like giving people recommendations without trying it out for myself, right? So I said, let me try this vegan thing, give me 30 days on this plant-based diet and see how I feel, to give them accurate information. So I did it, and it was actually way more than what I expected, right? Especially in our community, I don't think we talk about physical health sometimes, but we don't talk about the mental health, right? And I was going through some issues where, anxiety, depression, things of this nature.
What about your health at that point in time? Wasn't there something that happened with your health?
Yeah, I was transitioning. Can I get to that part? See how you rudely interrupt me?
Don't now, spoiler alerts.
So at this point, like I said, we talk about physical health, but I want to talk about the mental health aspect of it. So a lot of times, we're suffering from these issues when it comes to depression, anxiety, and things of that nature. And when you go see a doctor, the only thing that they tell you is take this pill that's going to help you with your anxiety or your depression or whatever the case may be. And I don't really believe in taking pills to solve any issues. I want to get to the root of it, right? So as I went on this plant-based journey, as I became vegan, within the 30 days, the things that I was suffering from, the anxiety, the depression, seemed to leave my body. And it was at the end of this 30 days where I realized, it's like, wow, I was absorbing this energy from these animals. And that's why I was suffering from this anxiety, this depression, that nobody ever painted that picture for me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people in our community don't even realize the transfer of energy. Like, as I was doing more research on that aspect of it, like if you ask somebody that's a true hunter that really goes out there and catches their food and stuff like that, if they're going out there and hunting and they kill their animal and they don't kill it on the first shot, they don't eat the meat because it spoils the meat, because that animal releases certain hormones it goes through their bloodstream into the meat where they won't absorb it, right? But yet and still, last year, me and Monk were actually in LA, and we were at one of the factories where they actually make the bacon and all that kind of stuff. And you can hear these animals from the outside. We're at a protest. You can hear these animals screaming and yelling, and it sounded like little kids inside of a building. And it was like, wow, they know as they're pulling up in these vehicles by the hundreds, what's their destiny once they go through these doors. And it was so eye-opening for me that, these animals are suffering from all these emotions, which all that fear is going into their body, and then we're taking it like a supplement, and it's going into our body. So that was one of the things, once I went through my 30-day process, that really stood out to me, let alone the recovery time, the weight loss, everything else that comes with it. But that was one of the huge things from a spiritual aspect of the transfer of energy between the animals and us and what we experience, you know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things I wanted to share with you guys today, because I know, seeing personal trainers and things of that nature, we always talk about, working out and, how do you, count your macros and all that kind of stuff. But we don't talk about the mental aspect of it. So we also have to think about it on that particular level as well. So that's kind of my story of how I started to transition. It was a question that was just asked me. I wasn't even thinking about becoming vegan at that particular moment in my life.
Awesome. Yeah. To go back on the thing about you talking about your energy, I know a lot of people who talk about Zen and they want to have the nice energy and they have the feng shui house. I always like to ask them, if you eat meat, the last thing that animal did before it died was scream for its life. Do you think that's the best energy to put in your body?
Exactly.
And they're always like, that don't count.
Yeah.
Because it's all about convenience.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, same question for you, baby.
Cool.
Let's do a little bit of visualization real quick. Everybody close your eyes. All right. And
Grab the
picture
wallets. Grab the wallets.
Yeah, no, put those down. So picture yourself laying on your desk, right? Your hands kind of like this. You guys can't see me, but my hands over my head. And I'm feeling really low energy because I just ate some barbecue. And I feel like going to sleep, but I'm at work, so I can't really go to sleep. So I got to like stay up and act like I'm up, right? And my belt was fitting real tight, and I had to loosen a notch on my belt, and my gut fell over my belt. And at that point in time, I opened my eyes, and I was like, I had enough. All right, you can open up your eyes now. And so from that point, that was probably like I was working in corporate America. I was working sales. I was really stressed during that time, and it was showing because I was carrying a whole lot of body fat, you know. And, you know, I was working overtime at my job, and for some reason I was chasing the money aspect of things, and I kind of lost track of the health, and I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people in here that can understand that. And so for me, I had seen people in my family die at a really young age, in my opinion. You know, like I believe that the body is meant to live well beyond 100 years old and beyond, you know, like several hundred years. But that's a whole nother story. But, you know, and so I started looking at I had 3 uncles, and all of them died before the age of 60. And then I had my grandma, she died at 64. And my other grandma, she died when she was in her late 60s. And for me, just seeing all that death, it made me like really, really look. And I was just thinking like, wow, it has to be a better way. It has to be more. And so I started researching like longevity. And I was looking at like longevity hotspots, people where you had like 4 generations of people. So like the great-great-grandmother was 120, the other kid was 100, other was 80 and 40s, stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is possible. So once again, you guys already know that when you see it, you can believe it. And then the next thing is what? It started with an A.
Achieve.
Achieve. It's believe, conceive, achieve. And so from there, that kind of set my mind along a different path. So I was asking my friends, I was like, yo, how old do you want to live to be? And some people was like, oh, I want to live to be 70, because by then all my friends are going to die. And I was just like, wow. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, you know, that's a short side of life. And I think that I remember I was watching this motivational video, and it said people die at 25 but don't get buried to 65. And I told myself that that's not going to be me. So in other words, what I had to do is I had to pattern my moves around the blueprint that I seen. So I saw this blueprint, and the blueprint was fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, and seeds, and the X factor, exercise. Because we could be as vegan as we want or as plant-based as we want, but if we're not moving our bodies will deteriorate. You know what I mean? Because the body requires movement. You get anxiety from when you're not moving around. You feel that stuff in your stomach, that means your body needs to move. So I started incorporating those things into my life, and it brought me to where I am now. At first I was 263 pounds, so I know what it's like to carry more weight than you're supposed to. And then I bumped into a trainer. He gave me some really good advice. I went all the way down to 195. Then I did what most people do, is I got happy. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I think I made it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. And so I stopped doing what I was doing that got me there, and then I gained like 40 of it back. But it's always a good comeback story. So I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I could do this. So I lost it again, and then I went from a junk food vegan to a whole foods plant-based vegan. You know what I mean? Because it's a difference though. And that's one thing too, is like, you do got to remember that just because it's vegan don't mean it's healthy. You know what I mean? You got to read ingredients. You know, you got to know what natural flavors are because there are no natural flavor trees. You know, I'm just being for real. You know, and also too, you know, anything with a seed doesn't have a mother. So all these seedless grapes, even though they're good, you know, yeah, it goes against nature. And so once I did that, I kind of transformed my body. I was once 42% body fat. I sit now at 16.1. And my goal is 10% body fat. And that's just my own personal goal because I believe if you don't got goals, then you're just shooting in the dark. And so so once I did that for myself, because I'm like Kat, and I think we all share the similar thread, is that I'm never gonna tell anybody to do something that I haven't done. You know what I mean? I just don't feel comfortable that way. And so my thing was I did it, and so then I decided to help other people do it. And once I got this formula down, it was like clockwork. Everybody that I talked to, everybody that comes and deals with me, that was getting the same result. And so from that point, I was like, okay, I got something. You know, and then that led into me having my own place, and that's kind of like where I started to where I am now, just to kind of catch you guys up on my story.
Is that natural flavored trees? I like that. I'm gonna look for that tree. Same question for you.
So my journey is a little bit different. First of all, I kept seeing my wife keep doing this to me. And I'm like, what is she doing? What is she trying to say? She wanted me to say that I'm a 2-time natural physique professional bodybuilder. That's what she wanted me to say.
But I know how you could forget. All of us are like that, right? Yeah. It's like, no big deal.
So I didn't know what a vegan is 6 years ago, and now I'm gangbanging vegan over here. You know what I'm saying? So I was raised really, really poor. I didn't know what a vegan was, like I said, till 6 years ago, and I was raised in organized religion, and very like strict organized religion, like 3 times a week church. I don't know, some of you do that, but I was a really, really bad kid at 5 years old. I tried to stab my brother at 5 years old. I was stealing from stores. I was hanging around with kids, and we were going in stores and just stealing from the stores. This is at 5 years old. Then I got old enough to realize what heaven and hell was, right? And I got scared straight. So I didn't want to do anything wrong, but it wasn't because I wanted to do it. It's because if I did this, I'm going to go to hell, right? So this lasted from about 5 years old into my teens. Then I was just like, I got to a certain point where I was walking on eggshells my whole life. I got to a certain point where I was like, if I'm gonna go to hell, I'm gonna go on my own terms, out in the streets. Completely the opposite of the teachings that I was, or the rules I was supposed to follow. And I did that for 20 years. For 20 years, I was out there just living wild, selling drugs, drinking a lot, getting involved in violence, just the whole thing. I just went from one extreme to the next. Well, about 10 years ago, this little one, I have other kids. I have a 27-year, I'm be 49 in a month. I have a Wait, how old are you? Yeah. What? Yeah, I'll be 49 on December 6th. But I have a 27-year-old son. So this little one, when I was about 38 years old, I was showing physical symptoms. I was killing myself with my lifestyle. Literally killing myself. And I was scared and I was depressed and I didn't know what to do, and alcohol was my crutch. So a little bit after she was born, that's why I always tell her, she came into my life to save my life. So I had a decision to make. I was either gonna tap out or tap in, or I was gonna live or I was gonna die. I'm sitting here. She came into my life to save my life. So live or die, and of course you know what decision I made. So at that point, since alcohol is my crutch, I didn't know what to do. I was still very angry. I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to live. I didn't want to leave at this time. So organized religion scared me. I was scared of it. I was scared of the whole thing. That's why I went the other way. But the streets, I wasn't good at that either. That scared me too. So what am I going to do? So I said, well, I've never tried meditation before. Let me try that. So I Googled it. Googled the meditation. I sat down. First place I meditated was in the bathroom, and everybody knows that. And I stayed there, not that type of meditation. I meditated in the bathroom. I had my little time, dark and all that stuff. Eventually I came out of there, but the first time I meditated, and as I began to meditate every day, my days were getting better. And if your days get better, your weeks get better. If your weeks get better, your months get better. If your months get better, your years get better. Then what happens? Well, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna have a better life. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and continue this, but I had no idea how it's gonna transform my life and my thoughts and my actions and everything about me. So 3 years fast forward, I'm still in my meditation. I'm still working through issues, but I'm sober. I haven't drank the whole 3 years. I'm sober. I'm over 10 years now sober. So 3 years into my meditation, I go to eat. Anybody from Oakland in here? Buttercup. Does anybody know what a Buttercup is, Jack London? It's almost like a what's that meat and potato diner, the Black Bear diner? It's almost like that. Everything's meat, everything's whatever, right? So I go in there and it's close to my birthday, and I go, nothing on this menu seems good to me. All this meat doesn't even seem right to me. I don't want any meat on my food. So I ordered a vegetarian omelet. Keep in mind, I didn't know what a vegan was. The person I was with said, "Are you a vegetarian?" And I answered, "Yes." And it's like I did not say that. It came out, right? So after I'm done eating, why did I say that, right? I knew I was never gonna eat meat again. It was a knowing, right? So I said, this is weird. Bodybuilding, vegetarian. Bodybuilding, vegetarian. I didn't know what I was gonna eat. I had no clue. If I was just to take out the meat, the chicken I ate 5 times a day, the turkey I ate 2 times a day, what do I eat? What do I eat? So I start, some of these cats that I seen when I looked it up, I'm now friends with. But I didn't know how to eat. So, and then I also Googled, why did I do this? Right? Not in those exact words, but yeah, why did I do, the only thing different I've been doing is meditation. So basically it said I just made a connection or a reconnection with all life, and I didn't want to do harm to any other beings. And I said, okay, that makes sense, because if I gave anybody, even meat eaters in here, a knife, and they said they didn't want a bacon, and I sent them outside to kill the pig, they wouldn't be eating bacon that day, right? So if you can't do it yourself, why would you eat it, right? I said, that makes a lot of sense. So I still have a little bit of conditioning left in me. So I'm still popping egg whites like Tic Tacs, right? I'm eating like 8 eggs a day now, right? Not knowing this is so bad for me, and I'm not checking on the milk products, right? And then I come across the video about the egg process. I thought chickens just had eggs. It's not true. I thought cows just had milk. There's no baby involved. They just have milk for whatever reason, right? I seen those videos, and from that day forward, I was like, I can't do it. I don't care if I shrink up. I don't care if I get small. I don't care what it is. I'm not gonna be a part of this anymore. And as I kept going forward with my meditation, of course I still do it now because it really transformed my life, I started to see people different. And I started to see all animals different as this connection that goes beyond form. And all of us have a purpose here, even if you're an animal. We all have our places here. We can't take a dog and put a dog or a cat on a pedestal and call it family and then eat their friends at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. Right? Other countries have animals where they use as food and we cry foul to. Right? The Yulin Festival comes up. Of course it's a horrible thing. Of course it's a horrible thing. But in that culture, that's what they eat. Right? Cow's sacred some places. It doesn't stop us from eating a hamburger. So as I continue to meditate, I became more and more, I lived from a place from here and had more of an understanding. And that's why with me in veganism, I'm not that pushy one. Of course, we need to get information out. That's what we're doing right here. But we give it from a place of love. We don't give it a place from judgment, because we all have eaten meat. I don't think there's anybody in this room that hasn't had some meat or dairy.
Yeah. All right, so coming from a place of love and judgment, because I assume most people here understand after all these lectures, we know what vegans are. Most of y'all are already vegan. So we can skip over that part. How do you deal with people coming at you in a negative, disrespectful way, you know, with the bacon jokes and all that type of deal?
Well, of course that happens, but you have to understand where they're at, right? So if I have a reaction to that in a negative way, now we got some tension that just escalated.
Beef.
You know what I'm saying? If I take the high route and don't get involved in this energy that's going on back and forth, when they leave, they're going to have second thoughts about what they said. We can't fight. Fighting doesn't win anything. We have to understand that. That's why the world is in the same state it is now.
All right, so for you, if someone comes at you online and is because a lot of people approach me, which it's never been somebody who's been in shape, to tell me about my amino acids and B12 and things of that sort. How do you come at them in a non-condescending way?
When they say something,
yeah,
that's what that block button's for.
Oh, but if it's you can
I'm
always
just saying, you don't have to get involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to bite. You don't have to bite that. They're trying to throw it to you. They don't.
Yeah.
That's all they're trying to do.
Oh yeah.
Believe me, sometimes I was like, should I do it? And I'm like, no. I go in on them right now.
Hey, you got to type it out and save it to drafts. Calm down a little bit.
I'm telling you, when you start avoiding things like this confrontation, because I know a lot of vegans, I actually had to remove myself from vegan pages because they were so judgmental. I was like, this is not what it's about.
Yeah.
We have to understand. We want them to come over to the other side.
You can't have a non-inclusive group and demand everyone be a part of it.
Exactly.
All right. Do you have any kids?
Actually, I have a son.
How old?
He's 6, about to be 7 November 3rd.
How do you deal with lunches at school for, especially because certain neighborhoods don't quite like growing up, even the neighborhoods I grew up in today, they don't quite understand what vegan is. They just kind of silly white people stuff.
Right.
Which sounds silly, but that's what I grew up hearing.
Yeah.
And in a lot of inner city community and food deserts we don't have the resources for it. You know, you go to the bodega, there's no kale in a bodega. There's 50-cent sodas and taquitos or whatever, Takis.
Right.
So how do you deal with lunch for your kid?
Well,
Also birthday parties and pizza parties and things of that sort.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go in, y'all.
Talk to him.
So yeah, So actually, the interesting thing is like we did a video about that on our Plant Power Brothaz channel, because I actually had 2 scenarios. I had a scenario at school. My son goes to Bella Vista over in Oakland, California, and you know, like I had to make my presence known. And I think that's the one thing that you guys need to do if you do have kids and they are going to schools. Number one, you just get it on paper. And so what I did was, the first couple of times I went up there and, his mother said that she seen some milk by him. And, you know, the number one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to try to reprimand the kid. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to educate them and explain to them. So therefore, because one thing I noticed, like when kids get to that certain age, it's like from 4, maybe like 9, they want to be real rebellious. You know, and they want to, they intentionally go against, well, yeah, definitely. They'll go against what you put a lot of energy toward. And it's just the way we test things. We test everything in life we test, you know? And so I had a scenario where they were like allowing him access to the food bar, and I went into the office and I was like, hey, guess what? I'm gonna feed my son. I don't need you to direct any food his way. If it's any snack, he doesn't need it. Regardless on how he tries to make you feel bad about not giving him that snack, he doesn't need it. And so what I started doing was I started doing meal prep for my son. So, you know, you if you say you want that to change, if you want to have control over that, then you also have to be proactive in that situation. And so that means that I took the extra time during times where I wasn't working to prepare him food, and some of his food looked better than, you know, most people's food, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I tell him, one thing I did too was I created a reward system for him. So in school, they be giving out those little stars, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, so they give out the stars, and kids really like the stars. They respond well to stars and gifts. And so what I started doing was every time I would send him with his food, because at first what was happening is he wasn't eating it. Because when your kid is in your house, it's a whole different set of rules than when they at school. And the teacher was like, I can't force him to eat it. He said he doesn't want to eat it. He pushes it to the side. And so at first I was like, hey, don't be pushing that food to the side. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, hey, I had to take a different approach because that approach wasn't working. And so after that, I started the reward system, and so the reward system worked because he was getting stars already. And so now I start giving him stars. So every time I see him eating all of his food, I say things to him like, yo, you're getting stronger. You know what I mean? Like, you're a genius. You know what I mean? Like, just things that make him feel good around that activity of actually eating food. Because I think what happens is when they go to school, they look at their food and it might be the best thing, but they're like, oh, wait, I don't got food like that. And so then they start looking around and then they think their food is bad. But that's the way I do it with him, is I just reinforce like him eating his food. You know what I'm saying? Him completing that. And your other question was about, and so then one thing I did too was I went to the school and I talked to the principal, and I signed a little paperwork they were asking me to sign. I was like, hey, this is religious. It wasn't really, but whatever you got to say to get the point to them that you don't want that to happen. What was your other question?
Pizza parties and stuff.
Oh, parties. So let me let you guys know something. In the schools, actually, there's a rule that states that they cannot have those brutal cupcake parties that they be having where all the kids, because I used to work in a school, and actually after the cupcake parties, there used to be more fights on the playground. So it's a whole another thing with sugar, and that's a whole another boat.
Whoa. For us that don't have kids, what's that about? Were they fighting over cupcakes?
No, they were fighting because the sugar in your body reacts it sends off stuff in your brain. Well, adults do it too. If you want to see something crazy, put some cake and ice cream out and give it to some adults and watch how they act. Like, for real, And so
that's liquor for kids.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I like to do is I like to just present healthier options. Like, I'll make some cupcakes. So therefore, I know what it is that's in them. You know what I mean? I'm not going to give my son any cane sugar because, little boys always got a ton of energy and they don't need any extra sugar. They don't need no extras, and that's just with kids, period. Kids don't need additives. And I think when we get into a habit of setting our kids up for sugar parties, AKA cocaine parties for kids, you know what I mean? Like, you create an environment to where they always want that. You know what I mean? And then it's everywhere. Your grandma gonna give it to them. And that's another thing too. When you sending your kids over other people's houses, bring them what you want them to have and let the person know who's in charge, the adult. You say, hey, this is all I want you to give my kid if my kid is hungry. You know what I mean? And I think, some people might fight against that. And some people will eventually respect what you have to say because at the end of the day, they're not raising those kids.
I dig it. All right. And so you were saying that you were at the barbershop and someone had asked you about veganism, about the vegan movement and stuff like that. Yeah. You answered completely wrong. You said you don't know. Most people just make some stuff up and say, vegan's not healthy.
Yeah.
So now that you are a personal trainer and you know about the vegan lifestyle and you've been doing it for a while, how do you deal with other trainers who, because I know if you're a trainer, you went through all of the certification process to learn what you learned, and now if someone throws the whole idea of the vegan thing to you, everything you've learned, if this is true, the vegan thing is true, everything you know and everything you've learned is now worthless. And a lot of people don't want to let that go because that's their business, that's their bread and butter, vegan bread. So how do you deal with other personal trainers who try to downplay your diet philosophy?
So initially, like, even the first 30 days, I had like a couple people that I trained with that was also personal trainers in the field, right? And they're like, you're doing what? Where are you going to get your protein from? Right? That's everybody's, where are you going to get the protein from? Where does the 2,000-pound bull get his protein from, Silverback gorilla get his protein from? But so after the 30 days, and I start, showing people that, through a plant-based diet, that you can get all the necessary protein to maintain the muscle mass that is required through the workouts. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing. People think they're going to lose a whole bunch of muscle. And if you ever seen I Am Vegan Monk's page with his shirt off every single day, I think we get the idea, Monk. We know how big your muscles are. Yeah, shirts.
You don't need a shirt. When he do laundry, it's only pants.
You don't know how hard it was to get this man in a sweater today. Like, he was like, I have to put on a shirt today? What? But, so, and continuing to work out with them. And just like Monk was saying, it's coming from more of a loving place. It's like not telling them what they're doing wrong, but allowing them to see that I can still perform to the same capability or even higher, than what I used to, just because of the recovery time that I have with my workouts. And they're like, man, they start asking, like, what are you doing? Like, what is something more to this? You just slowly but surely start giving the tips and tricks of the trade. It's like, hey, have you ever thought about it like this? You're asking about protein. Well, what doesn't have protein in it? You know what I'm saying? You have your legumes, you have your green leafy vegetables. These all have sources of protein in it. Like, start opening up their minds. And when I started doing that, they're like, that's something to think about. That's something to think about. I never thought about it like that way. Now, guess what they're doing? They're going on to those Google searches. They're going on to those videos, the YouTubes and everything else, and they're doing their own research. So just allowing them to see that, I'm not saying that you're doing it the wrong way and I'm doing it the right way and you need to do it like I'm doing it. It's
But
just
you should.
Well, everybody has their own approach.
Leading by example, though. I like that.
Yeah, just leading by example by the end of the day. And it's so funny because now, 2.5 years later, all the guys that I used to train with and continue to work out with slowly and surely are getting closer and closer to that whole food plant-based diet. They're cutting out more and more, getting a lot more people on my social media that are following me, just like hitting me up in my DMs. Hey, looking really good. What are you guys doing? Like, how do I maintain my muscle mass? And they just start to ask you those questions. So, just lead by example at the end of the day.
Lead by example. Same question.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Oh.
Why do you have your shirt on right
I was talking about you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. It depends on the day. Sometimes I could go back and forth, but sometimes I just take the high road. The main way that I talk to people is I usually, when it comes to trainers, the first thing I know that most trainers, because I got my personal training certification, don't learn a lot about nutrition. And so you cannot expect a trainer to be well versed in nutrition. And for me personally, I've studied, in college. I've took nutrition courses on my own of 10 years. I've studied just different things on plant-based nutrition. So it's kind of like, for me, I really know my stuff, and then I'm also, if people want to go there with me, I also tell them hey, I'm studying for my doctoral degree in holistic health sports nutrition.
Are you?
Yeah, I am for real.
You sound a religious thing in school. I don't know.
Well, no. Because at the end of the day, people, one thing I notice is you can have all the knowledge, but people respect those credentials. And so for me, that's the reason why, if I'm telling people stuff that's helping them out to change their lives and I don't have that credential, then I need to have that credential, because a lot of times people believe the doctor is God. And so, you know what I mean? I want to be able to give them the information they need to hear. And so when I hear people talk about protein, number one thing I ask them is, I tell them, I pull out a $100 bill and I say, I'll give you this if you find anybody that's died of protein deficiency.
Yeah, I've only heard of one person who suffered from protein deficiency, and it was a U.S. journalist who was captured by Somali pirates and held captive for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, and I never technically met him. I just heard a podcast with him.
Right.
I'll take 75.
No. He said he didn't know. We weren't sure if he died. He just suffered from it.
He was on the podcast. He's still alive. Yeah.
And so usually they can't answer that question. And then the next place that I hit him at is I talk about inflammation. And because I lifted a lot of heavy weight in my time, you know, my max bench press was 315 when I was down with the bro science. You know, and one thing I noticed is that I couldn't go like this and touch my back. And for me, it's like, okay, you could lift all this weight, but you can't get down like this in this position? You know what I mean?
How you gonna drop down and get your eagle on?
I'm saying, if you can't get your eagle on, what are we talking about? You know, and so from that point, you know, people tend to listen because usually if you are eating a lot of animal-based products, you do have a certain amount of inflammation in your body. And so when I start talking to them about that, it's usually some irrefutable things that they can't argue. Because we already know lactic acid buildup creates inflammation. We already know if you're having a bad diet, it creates inflammation. And inflammation affects your performance from a regular standpoint and from an athletic standpoint. So usually when I hit them with that, it kind of...
That was in a different direction.
Yeah.
All right, Vegan Monk, I got a question for you. Last one. Bro, do you even lift?
I try.
You try. Do we have any questions from the crowd?
I've been fruitarian since July.
You've been what? Fruitarian since July.
What is your thoughts about fruitarianism?
I know a...
He's been fruitarian since July. Anyone know what your thoughts were on that
Well, I
diet?
really don't know too much about it. I know a couple of people that are, and they seem to be doing okay. It's not for me right now, at least not for me. I do eat a lot of fruit. I do intermittent fasting from 12 to, I just eat from 12 to 8, and my first meal is a bunch of fruit. So I love fruit, but I don't know if I could just do strictly fruit. And the people that I know that are doing fruit, they're on the smaller side. I've never seen some yoked dude on just fruit. I haven't seen it personally. So, I mean, if it makes you feel good and your numbers are good and you're healthy, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
And also, not everybody wants to be jacked.
I actually like that way of eating. I think that's actually one of the highest forms of nutrition. Everything's fully digestible. You know, it's crazy because you don't have to heat a lot of things up, so you're getting everything at its highest point. If it's ripe, it's sweet. That means you're getting your maximum nutrients. I actually did the 80-10-10 for a minute, and I could actually say I felt the best when I did the 80-10-10.
Describe 80-10-10.
So the 80-10-10 is 80% carbohydrates, 10% protein, 10% fat. And when I did that, it actually improved my performance levels. But the one thing about that is like, you know, sometimes people are not educated on it. And so they look at it like, first thing they think about is, what about all that sugar? And if you really think about like energy, our body runs the best off of carbohydrates. And we talk about carbohydrates that are connected to fiber.
Somebody out there love carbs.
Yeah, somebody knows.
Somebody had 8
I
donuts
reached somebody.
today.
And so we should never, because think about it, it's the only thing that we could eat right away. You know what I mean? Like we could grab it. Think about how many times you grab a banana or you grab an apple. It's something that you could eat right away. It's instant energy. And then on top of that, your body could store it. You know, and your body can't really store protein or fat. And when you think about how those two energies burn, they burn dirty. And so, you know, a fruitarian diet, if done properly, is optimal, is sufficient, and you'll get everything that you need.
Awesome. Question up here?
Yes, what about vegan protein powder?
What about vegan protein powder? Anybody? Anybody can take it.
Yeah, well, my own personal experience with vegan protein powder, the first 30 days when I was making that transition, learning more about it, I was using a vegan protein powder. But for the most part, in the last two years, I've probably taken a vegan protein powder maybe like 2 or 3 times, just for the simple fact I was in such a rush that I was like, oh, let me make something quick. Let me just have this protein shake so I didn't miss a meal. But I haven't relied on it, me personally.
So I'm at a booth over there that's selling vegan protein powder.
What kind of protein powder will you suggest?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not just saying that because I'm involved with this company. It's the best plant-based protein powder out there. No, I'm serious. Okay. Okay, you got to name another protein. Name another protein is 60% whole food. 60% whole food. It's just whole food, right? So it's from a plant called lentine. Lentine is a flowering water plant. It's like a duckweed. It's a controlled aqua farm. It's the most nutrient-dense plant on the planet. You can look it up, right? So as far as protein drinks go, this is like a meal replacement drink with protein.
What would it be called?
It would be called Clean, because it's super clean.
Clean.
It's non-GMO, and all the gluten-free, organic, all these things. Clean, green protein.
Clean green protein. And if I wanted to find it, where would I find that?
You go through these two doors.
Those over there?
The big opening that we're standing on the table right there.
Yeah.
Turn left.
My left or your left? Oh, the left.
The only left.
Oh, the only left, okay.
And then when you hit the road before the bathrooms, take another left.
Another left.
And there's gonna be an ugly dude at a table over there.
But he's gonna be jacked.
Yeah.
Cause he takes what?
Look, if you're ugly, you gotta have your body gotta be right.
You gotta have a nice body and a good personality.
You can't have two bad things.
Yeah, choose a struggle. All right, we got a question back there, green shirt. Any thoughts on calcium deficiency from fruits? Or maybe you just incorporate other things in your diet besides fruits?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is before your teeth start crumbling, you have to have some warning signs. Like it has to be something that you notice that happens. And as far as calcium goes, if you're eating a decent amount of leafy greens, because even if you're on a, like, let's just say you're on a fruitarian diet and that's not working for you. Okay, cool. So then guess what? You're able to make a change. And you just switch over and you add something that you're missing. And you know, that usually creates that balance. But one thing I noticed too is a lot of people that have those issues, most of them aren't strength training. Because you have to create a demand. You know what I mean? Like you have to create a demand for what it is that your body is going to produce. So if you're trying to build bone density, you have to be creating some sort of physical demand to create your body's density levels. You know what I mean?
The question is, do you guys track your macros? And if you do, what app do you use or how do you track them?
So for me, I used to track macros. But one of the things that I just make sure that I do is I just make sure I eat whole foods. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you're gonna get all your nutrients as long as you're eating stuff that got seeds in it, as long as you're eating your decent amount of leafy greens. You know what I mean? As long as your digestion is where it should be, you're gonna get everything you need. But a good app that you could use that I like that's really accurate is called Chronometer. And I like that because I was tracking it when I was doing the 80-10-10 just to see what my numbers were. And Chronometer is a really good one. It has like a gold apple.
So I initially did the first maybe few months, and the app that I found that was most helpful for me was MyFitnessPal. You can kind of go in there and play with the settings depending on what your fitness goals are. And then I feel like after like a month or two, once you get a good feel of what makes you feel high energy, awake, and you don't feel like, oh, I'm getting burnt out throughout the day. After that, I kind of just lost track of it. I stopped tracking and just went about my day and just felt good from there on out.
I've never counted macros, and people always ask me, what's your macros? And I was like, what's macros? I don't eat them. No, but I just eat how I feel. If we're more in tune and more in touch with ourselves, you can really know what's working for you and what's not working for you.
Yeah, and we have another question here. We have time for just a couple more. Yes, sir. The question is, how do you introduce the conversation to the vegan and healthy lifestyle to family members?
Here's the thing. People pray over food, talking about for the nutrients and help this in our bodies and this and that, and it's fried pork chops and over-seasoned, if they have vegetables. It makes no sense, and it's such a hard program to break. Even if it's killing you and you know it's killing you, it's been given to us since birth, and it's something that we have grown attached to, and it's hard for us to break it. So how many people do you know that's on medication and all you have to do is switch their diet, but they find it impossible to do it? It's like, I'll just take more medication and eat what I want. It's the programming, and nobody can get rid of the program except for that person. So there's really, I mean, you got to sit back and watch your family members kill themselves. There's nothing you can do to force this person to change their behavior. So it's up to, for us people that know, and just send them messages in a way where maybe something might click for them to get it. But you can't force anybody to do anything.
So let me just piggyback off of what Monk said. I know when I first transitioned, one of the biggest issues I had was explaining it to my mom. I used to go over to my mom's house every Sunday as a family, and we'd go have breakfast and the whole thing. And one day I went in there and I was like, no, thank you. She looked at me like I was crazy, right? She's been feeding me since I was a little kid, and now I'm not eating what she's putting on the table. And at first, it was like so hard to explain to her why I've made these decisions. Like, are you sick? What's going on? Who are you hanging out with? What are they telling you? And I was like, no, it's just a decision I've made for myself, Mom. It's like, this is what's going on. I've been told at a very young age, like, you gotta imagine this. Since the age of 5, I remember my dad saying, diabetes and high blood pressure run in our family. You got to be careful as you get older what you put in your body, right? And it's not that it runs in our family. It's the poor nutritional decisions that we hand down with the recipes that we give one generation to the next generation that continue these diseases within the family, right? So the first, 3-4 months, I'm trying to hit my mom with all the facts, and you need to watch this documentary and do this and that. And it was just a whole bunch of back and forth. And I got to a point where I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. That's we're just going in circles right now. But I got to a point where it's like, okay, what does she normally cook on these days? And my mother's from South America, right? And Venezuela, to be exact. And they have something called a arepa, right? It's made out of cornmeal, and it's actually vegan friendly, right? And it was one of those things like, okay, how can I take this and make something that she's already accustomed to that I can share with her and say, hey, this is what we do. This is, Venezuelan food, right? So I did that, made a arepa, made some little guac mixture, like a guacamole, put some black beans in it, made it all fancy, seasoned it, and told her to try it. It's like, hey, try this. And she had something in front of her that she was familiar with, right? And she tasted it and it's like, I like it. So slowly but surely, what I personally did with my family members is trying to take things that they're already familiar with and just showing them how to make it of a vegan lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle. So it's not too much of a stretch. I'm not gonna take somebody that's been eating pork chops, fried chicken, and all this crazy stuff and tell them that they need to go, extreme plant-based fruitarian, next week because they're gonna die of a heart attack and heart disease and everything else, right? It's taking those baby steps and helping those people wean themselves off, feeling more comfortable about what they already know. Does that make sense? Okay.
Just, all right.
To come off the top ropes for that question too, one of the things that I say when it comes to your family, it's always difficult to watch family members suffer because I'm not the only one who wants the best for their family. But the one thing that I have learned over the past is, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so what I thought about then is I was like, well, I just got to be a diligent farmer. And when I say that, I mean that you got to plant the seeds, and wherever it sprouts or wherever it catches root or wherever it's meant to be watered, it'll get the nutrients that it needs. And one way that you plant seeds is you hit people right in their taste buds. You hit them in the taste buds. You know what I mean? Like, and so if you got a recipe that's just like the recipe that they used to, sometimes you could sneak it in, and that's what I do. You know what I mean? Like I take a recipe that I've got good at, and I sneak it into them. And then what happens is I got to bring seconds because they eat my stuff and they forget about their stuff. But I think that's the best way, is kind of like, leading by example. Don't tune down your light. Let your light shine, but don't expect everybody to open their eyes to it.
Yeah. All right. So what I would like to do, each of you guys take the mic, stand up, tell the people your name, tell them how they can find you online.
My name's Monk. You can find me at I Am Vegan Monk on Facebook, and Vegan Monk on I Am Vegan Monk on Instagram, Vegan Monk on Facebook.
All right. Give him a round of applause. Yes, sir.
How's that? So I'm Coach G. You guys can find me on Instagram at PlantBFit1. That's PLANT, the letter B Fit 1. Or if you're looking to come get your life transformed, you could come visit me over at my transformation studio over in Oakland, California, 2706 Park Boulevard. Only serious people though, because I like working with people that are definitely motivated and are ready to make transformations. So that's where you can find me at too as well.
So nobody's showing up in full makeup. All right.
You can find me on IG at CatFitness3, also Cat Fitness on Facebook, and I'm located in West Oakland and Richmond. So 5 days out of the week, I'm training, helping people get information at both locations. Morning times, I do morning classes in West Oakland, and then in the evening times, I do classes in Richmond. So yeah, you can find me.
Awesome. Give these fellas a round of applause. Yeah.